Welcome to the Spotlight Series. I'm your host, Scott and Ernie. We are here at the Cowesett Inn on Tuesday night. Stop by and see us. Grab a drink with the crew. The gang would love to see you come by. Tonight we are hosting our artist series, and we have Camille Gregorian from Gallery Z. Welcome to the Spotlight Series.
Thank you, Scott. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, by profession, I'm a clinical social worker. That was not my original plan in life, but you know, life takes some turns.
Sure.
And I got back into painting the past 3 years or so when I cut back a little bit semi-retired. I always loved art. I think I can trace my love of art to probably when I was a little girl, and my father, George Gregorian, also known as Frenchie, used to take me to the RISD Museum. On Sundays they had free admission, which was very attractive.
Sure.
And so we would tour the gallery and maybe see a free movie, and somehow that, I don't know if that sparked my interest in art, but I always felt the need to do something creative, whether it was drawing, painting, or even cooking. But having a career as a social work manager, there was no time for that. So the good thing about the semi-retirement is I started to get back into it. I've been painting again for about 3 years.
I love the semi-retired world. It's probably more busier than you were before.
100%. Everybody told me that, but they're right.
They are.
Yeah.
But it's on your terms. Mm-hmm. So that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And if you're doing something that you're passionate about and you love, so tell us a little bit about what your medium is that you like to do.
I primarily work in acrylic and mixed media. Mixed media means you could use acrylic paint, ink, crayons, just anything that brings texture and life to the work. Sometimes I use what they call oil and cold wax, which is more an oil medium, oil paint, similar type of thing. I do some collage, which is, you know, cutting pieces from magazines, pieces of paper that you found, you know, pieces of bookkeeping, journals, whatever, to incorporate that. So primarily my medium is acrylic.
So you're recycling, texturing.
Lots of layering. I do a lot of layering. Sometimes I start the process with just kind of what we call playing, you know, just throwing the paint on, scribbling, doing all kinds of things, and then it's just an intuitive process initially to see what happens and what excites you. After that, and this is where I'm still developing, after you get that first couple of layers on, then you have to be a little more discerning and edit. Like, this doesn't work, let me try this, this works well. But the other thing that I think a lot of artists can relate to is sometimes there's a beautiful spot that you love, but it somehow doesn't work with the rest of the work, and you have to sacrifice it.
It's not like a story writer who says, I have a great scene, I'm going to put it in this book, but I'll keep the rest. You don't have that opportunity to cut it out.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think that's a good analogy, because even as a writer, you probably sometimes have to totally delete something that you loved.
But you can bring it back.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So you don't really know, do you have a good vision of what you're going to paint, or do you kind of go with the flow? Or?
I generally don't have a good vision, or if I do, it never works out.
Okay.
So it's really just sort of a feeling. Sometimes it's painting to music. Sometimes it's a theme, and I recently lost my brother, George Gregorian. He was also known as Frenchie. He had taken on my father's popcorn business. That's a whole other part of my life.
Loved that popcorn.
Oh, truck. That popcorn business, which I used to hate to work for, but, you know, I miss it, obviously. So one of the things, when he first died, I couldn't paint at all. I just was numb. But it's actually been quite therapeutic for me, and I have been... sometimes I work with this idea of like loss. I'm dealing with loss. So I'm actually working on a series now that has to do with layers of loss and kind of longing for him. That's one of the paintings that I actually brought with me.
So let's see that one.
Yeah. Do you want me to just show it to you like this?
Yeah, no, show it to the camera, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if people, it's a hard thing, but you know, it's just a lot of colors, and then there's a lot of this writing. When you get closer to it, you'll see some of the, sort of the second look, you will see some of the things that have more to do with the actual loss. But from far away, it just looks like, okay, some colors. I think one of the funny things with abstract art is people sometimes, especially like my husband, will say, well, what is that supposed to be? Well, not necessarily has to be anything. It's just your reaction to the colors and the shapes and what it makes you feel like.
Yeah, it's soothing.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I looked at your bio,
Yeah.
I saw there was some mention of a style that is painting, sanding, and scraping, as I quote. So tell us a little bit about what your mindset is and what you're actually doing in that.
So it's kind of like, again, an exploring or an intuitive process. So you might have put a layer of a certain color on, but underneath that there's something else. And you can use either scraping, like with sandpaper, or alcohol. Believe it or not, like I spray a little bit of alcohol and then get a paper towel and you rub that off, and it gives it kind of a misty quality where the layers are translucent, but they come through. You can see other lines. You see the history. So I think it's almost like an old building where it's more interesting than a brand new concrete building. There's a lot of history and layers in the work when you work
nice.
that way.
And I know you've won some recent awards the last couple of years, which is difficult in COVID times, so congratulations to you.
Thank you, Scott.
What were your most crowning achievements on those?
Well, I think I'm proud of myself that I haven't only been painting about 3 years. I won a couple of honorable mentions at some small local shows. There's one called Arnold Mills in Cumberland that they have in the spring and the fall. So 2 different works, one honorable mention there, and I've also showed at the Attleboro Museum of Arts and Hartspart. There are a few other galleries.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've also done a lot of exhibits around the state where people may have run into your works.
I haven't quite gotten to that yet. I'm going to be. I'm going to be at some places as the holidays come
that might be what
around.
I saw.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. You mentioned what you're working on now, so people can see some of your work at Gallery Z.
Absolutely. I think Berge has hung 5 of my works there. I also have a website. If people were interested, they can look at that. It's pretty simple, CamilleGregorianArt.com.
Love that. Great. I wish you a lot of luck. We'll be looking forward. We're a big fan at the Rhode Island Wave, and we wish you fantastic success.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about it.
Great.
Thanks,
you.
Scott.
And I believe we have a special presentation from Gallery Z. Berge?
Camille,
Yes.
I want to tell you I'm very proud and happy you joined the Gallery Z stable of artists, and I love your work, very meaningful. It means a lot to me personally, being an Armenian, and your brother, and besides all this, your art. And a lot of people love it, and I wanted to give you a Gallery Z hat.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. It's a great experience, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Camille.
Thank you.